Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. We're going to be getting started in just a minute, but while folks get logged in, I do have some announcements that I'd love to share with all of you. Some upcoming webinars later this month on Tuesdays. We have optimizing calibration methods for low-cost PM 2.5 sensors and high-concentration occupational environments. And that will be with Dr. Fong and the Rocky Mountain Center for Occupational and Environmental Health. On Wednesday, November 20th, we have Ergonomics and Your Parents, Musculoskeletal Challenges of Home Healthcare for a Loved One. And that will be with the Defense Centers for Public Health's perspective with Kelsey Mikoski, MS CPE, and John Patinkis, MS CPE and PhD, and the Johns Hopkins Education and Research Center for Occupational Safety and Health. And on Wednesday, December 4th, we're going to have a presentation on climate change and environmental degradation impacts on worker well-being. And that will be with Gina Solomon, MD, MPH, and the California Labor Lab. For more about these events, you can visit us online at coh@berkeley.edu/about-CE. And it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, Transitioning to Ergonomics, Career Journeys from Physical Therapy, Athletic Training, and Occupational Safety. Got a few more housekeeping announcements before we dive in with our wonderful panelists here today. All participants who logged in with their registration email for the full live presentation will receive an email tomorrow with a link to an evaluation form that will qualify you for a certificate of completion with one continuing education contact hour. You will be muted during the presentation. If you'd like to ask a question, please enter it into the Q&A box. And note, this is separate from the chat. The chat is open for you all to chat with one another, but if you could please keep your Q&A questions into the Q&A box, that really will help me as the moderator keep track of what questions have been asked and answered and make sure that I don't get any lost in the chat. And we're looking forward to a really engaging panel discussion, and so we're hoping to get lots of questions from all of you in the audience today. This presentation is being recorded and will be made available on the Center for Occupational and Environmental Health YouTube page within 5 business days. And that concludes our housekeeping announcements, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome our presenters for today. We are joined by 3 panelists from different backgrounds who all found their way to ergonomics. Our first panelist, we have Alison Heller-Ono, PT, MSPT, CPE, President and CEO of Worksite International Incorporated. She is a veteran physical therapist combined with dual credentials as a certified industrial ergonomist, or CIE, and certified professional ergonomist, CPE, along with a certified disability analyst. As an entrepreneur, pioneer, and bold industry leader in the ergonomics marketplace, Alison helps small and mid-sized multinational and global employers keep employees healthy so they can work to their maximum potential. Alison is a trusted advisor and consultant to clients who desire a safe and comfortable and productive workforce. She's also a coach and mentor to professionals desiring to learn about occupational ergonomics.
Thank you.
Our next panelists are joined by Courtney Upshaw, MS, LAT, ATC, and AEP. She completed her Bachelor of Science at Bowling Green State University, where she studied athletic training, and has earned her Master of Science from Winthrop University in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Upon achieving her board certification for athletic training, Courtney accepted a role as the athletic trainer for an elite soccer club in Greenville, South Carolina. In 2017, she transitioned into the industrial setting and was introduced to ergonomics. With her role as an injury prevention specialist, Courtney carried out tasks geared towards reducing employees' risk of developing musculoskeletal disorders, such as workstation evaluation and redesigning and implementing wellness programming. Today, Courtney is a consultant for Velocity EHS, where she facilitates workshops informing employers how to conduct an ergonomics assessment using AI-generated software to reduce MSDs in the workplace. In addition to facilitating workshops, Courtney also conducts job assessments and provides employers with solutions to mitigate employees' exposure to soft tissue injuries. And our third panelist today, we're joined by Megan Krones, CSP. Megan is a senior safety services consultant for Century Insurance, which provides workers' compensation coverage to large national customers across the United States. She serves as a subject matter expert in ergonomics for her team, whose ergonomic service platform includes ergonomic assessments, hands-on workshops, and program development. More recently, she led a company-wide initiative bringing computer vision software to Sentry customers. Collectively as a team, Sentry consultants have conducted over 5,000 ergonomic assessments since 2021, with the goal of bringing effective but practical solutions to the table. Prior to her role at Sentry, she worked as a safety manager in the manufacturing industry. She has a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Management and is currently a student in the Human Factors and Ergonomics Certificate Program. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We're so excited to hear from you and hear about your journey. I'm going to stop talking for a little bit and turn it over to each of you. I'd love for each of you to tell us a little bit more about your background, your journey, what brought you into ergonomics, anything you'd like to share about where you started and where you are now.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. Thank you so much, Michelle, for the introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here. And thank you to all attendees. Really appreciate your interest in this topic. I'm a third-generation ergonomist. I like to call myself that because I started back in the early 90s, and that means, ergonomics as a science began in the mid 50s or so, after the Korean War or so, to help the military and pilots. So I've learned from those that came before me, which would be probably about 2 generations of it. So how I got my start was as a physical therapist treating injured workers in the clinic. I would ask them, how did you get hurt at work? And they would tell me what happened to them. And then I would ask if their employer offered any solutions or any alternatives. And I learned over that experience that we all know how to do our jobs, but no one's ever really taught us how to work safely or with good ergonomics. And I began my career helping injured workers with back injuries, shoulder strains, and so forth, doing work capacity, functional analysis, work simulation, and that kind of work. And that really opened the door to understanding how people work. And I'd always been curious about it. Even in my master's, I did a thesis on a student physical therapist's perception of industrial physical therapy and working on site with employers. And at that time, I found the Bureau of Labor Statistics and was consumed with how many work injuries were happening in the early 90s and late 80s, early 90s when I was doing my research. And of course, carried that into the clinic. And as I said, worked with injured workers. And pretty much once I realized that there was a disconnect and a gap between how employees worked, the injuries they incurred, and what employers did to help prevent injuries, I realized as a physical therapist that I could really offer significant value in the workplace. And that pretty much, started my career. And there's more to the story, and I'll save it as we go along.
I'll go ahead and jump in next. Yes, so Courtney here, and my background starts with, my journey starts with sports medicine, athletic training. So as an athletic trainer, we are more on the reactive side of things, even though we try to push to be on the preventive side. But truth be told, we see a lot of the athletes after they become injured. And so my passion was to try to be on the front end of those injuries. And it's just kind of challenging to do that in sports. And with that stated, I have family members that worked in the manufacturing settings, and I would hear different stories about how their bodies were aching and different injuries from that, and wondering, well, where's your athletic trainer at? And they did not have those in those type of facilities. And I wanted to do a non-traditional route of athletic training. And so that's where my itch became more prevalent when it comes to ergonomics. And I didn't know exactly how I wanted to get into the industrial field with athletic training, but I knew there was a way. And in 2017, and that's when I became an injury prevention specialist and was able to get introduced to ergonomics in a more formal setting. And with that stated, I was able to do a little bit more of education for myself, took several different classes and webinars in order for me to enhance my knowledge with ergonomics, because there is a difference between ergo and athletic training in that particular industrial setting there. And so once I became more familiar with ergonomics, my passion for it just enlightened me, and seeing how I can really be more on the preventive side and being able to assist employers with setting up their work environment in order to fit the operator to the actual work and not fit the work to the operator. So I wanted to make sure that I was more on that preventive side of things, and that's where ergonomics came into place at. So I'm pretty new into the field itself. Every day is a learning opportunity, and I have been enjoying it ever since I've made that decision to transition over into ergonomics in 2017.
All right. Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Megan Krones, and I am a safety consultant with Century Insurance, and we are based out of Stevens Point, Wisconsin. My career started in a safety specialist role. I graduated from college with an environmental degree, which is typically affiliated with safety in private industry. So I was able to align my degree with my career field very quickly after graduation. I know lots of people typically fall into safety, but that was not the case for me. I felt very fortunate to be able to use my degree right away. But then I worked in private industry for about 7 years when I learned of my current role at Century. And Century does provide workers' compensation insurance coverage to large national accounts. And what's unique about the insurance program within the national account group is that they are all large deductible. And so that means they pay for their injuries dollar for dollar up to a pretty high threshold, which can range anywhere from $250,000 to $1 million per claim. So that said, there's this huge incentive for them to prevent as many injuries as they can. And one of the biggest loss drivers across all industries is sprains and strains, which really opened the door for me to be able to lead our department's ergonomic initiatives. We saw this huge gap between what customers needed and what we were able to provide. So that brings me to just a few years ago, where I started serving as our department's subject matter expert for my team of about 20. And our primary service offerings include ergonomic assessments and training. We do that through fun and engaging workshops, and we utilize simple all the way up to complex tools depending on the audience. And then more recently, we've partnered with Tumiki, which is one of those computer vision software companies. And customers really seem to love the visuals behind it. So that's opened up the door even more for us to provide that ergonomic assessment and training. So it's just a big win-win for both the insurance company, being Century, and the customer. So that kind of brings me to today. Not only do I provide all those same services that the rest of my team provides, I'm also responsible for reviewing ergonomic reports that go out the door. I provide training and resources to my team to advance their skill set, as well as facilitating broader workshops for all of the Century business units. I'm also currently a student at the UC Berkeley Human Factors and Ergonomics Certificate Program, and I hope to take and pass the CPE exam next year. And then I think I'll just end with this. What's most interesting to me about this transition into ergonomics is when I applied for the job that I have now, almost 10 years ago, my soon-to-be manager asked me in the interview what topic I felt the least comfortable with, and my answer was ergonomics. So to be here now is really surprising, but also just really special and something that I've really come to enjoy.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing. I love that anecdote that one of the things that you found most challenging is now your bread and butter. That's awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, and a reminder to our audience, you are more than welcome to ask questions. You've got a little background on our panelists here today. If there's any questions you want to ask them, please go ahead and put it in the chat. We have plenty of time for questions. I have one of my own that I'd love to pose to all of you. What unique insights or approaches do you think have translated from your original field that maybe you see as giving you an edge in ergonomics? And can you share some examples of how you've used that or how it's impacted your work?
mean, I can start. For me, it's the communication piece. I think understanding the different dynamics among your average worker up to the supervisor level, and then all the way through up to the executive team. On my team, we like to, use the phrase, and some of you have probably heard of it, but it's not always easy to tell somebody that their baby's ugly. And when we come in and we're identifying issues, it's a challenge to communicate a gap or deficiency, and then to be able to turn around and sell a solution that's going to be an investment on behalf of the company. It's tough, but for me, that skill is the same whether we are talking about a safety issue or an ergonomic issue. So I was able to sort of transfer that really easily and really well, just with my background in safety. So I think being able to know who your audience is and be able to communicate in a way that's meaningful but also effective is really important.
Absolutely. I can second that too as well, Megan. With being out as my former career with athletic training, you are dealing with coaches, parents, athletes, and you have to learn how to communicate to each of those folks individually in different manners and things like that. But when it also transitioned over to ergonomics, because when I teach my workshop, I have to be aware of the audience that I'm teaching and be able to communicate on their terms and on their levels of things. And at the same time, being able to provide that high level of information when it comes to ergonomics and why you should why should you apply this type of solution in order to be able to reduce those risk factors within your work sites. And also with that stated, being able to understand what their needs are and provide the solution for them as well. So communication is definitely one of the skills that has transitioned from my athletic training setting over to ergonomics as well. In addition to that, I will also say that perhaps the evaluation skills that I had to utilize in athletic training also carries over to ergonomics, because you do have to conduct assessments for those job workstation environments. So being familiar with the different assessments that is utilized in your ergonomic toolbox, when to make those different decisions as to what assessment tool you're going to utilize and how you're going to apply it, and then being able to communicate why you're using this assessment versus the other assessment as well. So those are some key concepts that I was able to transition over from athletic training to ergonomics.
Yeah, when I think about my background as a physical therapist, my skill strength was in understanding how people work and the physical demands it takes. And I think employers don't recognize and don't have good, well-designed job descriptions or understand the components of work, the physical, the cognitive, the organizational risks that it brings. And I was, young and excited and passionate about learning about ergonomics at the time. And I was didn't really want to continue as a clinician, but I knew that I wanted to work with employers and I wanted to consult. I felt I had a really good skill set in biomechanics, studying movement, kinesiology, understanding how people work, and the basics of what ergonomics is, the study of how people work. And it just seemed like such a natural transition. So I think that those three things in general allowed me to say goodbye to the clinic and open my own consulting practice in 1993. And there really weren't any boundaries. There wasn't anybody to tell me I couldn't do it. And I became one of the first female business consultants in ergonomics in the state of California prior to the regulation, the Cal OSHA regulation in 1997. I actually went and advocated for the regulation. I went up to the standards board in Sacramento and I brought a client with me, and I had been involved in starting an ergonomics process for 4 years at the Monterey County Sheriff's Office. And that was a profound influence on my journey. I realized that I could help influence legislation, regulation in the state. So really, your skills are just, unlimited, really. Once you embrace what you have and what you can bring and don't be afraid, you can make a difference. So that was those are some of the unique insights and approaches that I feel helped me propel myself and my business to where it is today.
Thank you so much for those insights. And we've started to get some audience questions rolling in. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the first one here. I've been an industrial hygienist more than 25 years, and I'm very interested in getting into the ergonomics side. What do you recommend in terms of transitioning? Where I am currently, I don't do ergonomics as part of my job function, and I only know the basics.
I'll try to help with that. What do you recommend in terms of transitioning there? You know, you've got to, when you say the basics, there's a lot to that. Does that mean you know, and you sat in on an hour of training, you basically understand how to sit at a computer workstation? But do you know, there's so much more into taking a deep dive into office ergonomics. And I believe that office ergonomics is the foundation and a stepping stone for other types of ergonomics. So if you're going to do manufacturing, you really need to understand just an individual one-on-one approach first before you look at how many people work together in an environment. So, you know, it's important for you to decide how much time do you want to spend on ergonomics. It's one thing you want to you know, learn it, and you say you don't do it as part of your job function. Do you want to do it as part of your job function? Because obviously, there are courses out there that are anywhere from, you know, 2 hours to, we offer a 32-hour course. And then there's the COEH course, which is, you know, multiple levels of course to become a CPE if you want. So there's a huge hierarchy in the ergonomics education marketplace. And you really have to ask yourself, what is it you want to do with those skills? And what is it you want to learn? And I think, at least if you are going to transition or add to your career, that you need to be skilled at understanding office ergonomics from a human factors engineering perspective, understanding furniture and accessory criteria, and also anthropometrics, the study of the fit of the work environment to humans.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing I'll add, we have several industrial hygienists on our team that have posed that same question. There's a couple people that want to get more involved in ergonomics, and so they're tagging along on some of my visits. So I would, you know, I don't know where you work or what the availability is, but if you work at a company that has safety people, professional safety people employed, to talk with them, get plugged in with them. There's so much crossover between safety, ergonomics, industrial hygiene. And I think I would speak for safety people anywhere that we are always looking for more help. There's never, you know, not enough safety work to be done. So if you have the ability to plug in with your safety team, safety and health team, that I think would be another really great first step, and just see what they're doing in terms of ergonomics, and can you sit in, can you help, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and to add on to that, perhaps there's a safety team committee, or maybe there's like a ergo committee that you can join that doesn't require you to have certification, but just be part of the team and be able to have some observation time in order to identify different awkward postures and get familiar with the different terminologies when it comes to ergonomics. So like Megan indicated, check with your safety team because they may have a subcommittee available for you to join.
Thank you all so much for those ideas. Another question from our audience here. Did your definition of ergonomics evolve from your former practice to your current as an ergonomist? How did your practice evolve, your understanding of the field?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I mean, you know, going from the clinic to evaluate someone who had a work injury and looking just at that individual, I realized, you know, the individual that I was looking at and the injury they might have had, let's say that carpal tunnel from working at a keyboard and mouse and a workstation, was influenced by other people's decisions in the workplace. So the work demands, the productivity demands, the stress from the supervisor, the furniture that was selected, the chair that was purchased, the person who bought the chair, the person who selected the desk, the facilities managers, the purchasing managers, HR director. So the more I did ergonomic evals for individuals, the more I realized, wow, I have to look upstream, because these other people are making decisions about this individual and how they work. And that person is just, they just show up and they do it. Like, some people would never move their monitor screen, even though it was 45 degrees to the left of their keyboard, because that's where IT put it, So I realized this is a system. And I had to, and it opened the door for me to become a macro ergonomist. Once I realized I got to look upstream to see what's happening downstream, I embraced that 100% and started looking at a systems approach to ergonomics. So my definition was, really enhanced once I realized that. And I love that approach. I can do both, transactional, looking at the individual, but my solutions and the decisions and what I observe are actually coming from many other parameters around the work environment.
Yeah, I think for me too, of everyone on this call, I've probably been in the ergonomics field the least amount of time. But sort of agreeing with Alison, when you look at it from a systems-based approach, I think my perception of ergonomics 10, 15 years ago was that it would just be a small part of safety. But as I've learned more, as I've taken classes, as I've worked with customers, it can absolutely be a full-time job, especially when you're looking at it from a systems-based approach. And so there's just a lot more to it than I realized initially, which I think is a great thing. But being able to communicate that to the key stakeholders is important too, that it's not just identifying 2 or 3 problems, implementing solutions, and we're on our way. It's just so much more than that. So that's how it's changed for me.
And for me, it also transitioned into my day-to-day lifestyle. I've developed like this ergo eye, and I find myself like reaching above the top shelf during doing laundry, and I'm like, oh, that is not ergo friendly. And I'll go to my mother's house and I'm like, Mom, that's not ergo friendly for you. You should place it more down in your power zone, your operative mode. So once I got into it, I just developed this ergo eye all over, and I just can't unsee it now.
Yeah, I would like to say too that it's so much more than a checklist approach.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of courses begin with a checklist, but that doesn't answer the questions. Yes or no does not answer the questions. Like, are you sitting, with your butt against the back of your chair, your back against the backrest, or your feet on the floor? It doesn't fully give you the picture. So you've got to, really look beyond. And I like to say, ergonomics is more than a wrist rest or a chair. It goes far beyond that. And I think, in this profession, it's our role to make sure employers understand the influence that ergonomics has. It's human-centered design. We have an influence model, Worksite International Ergonomics Process Influence Model, and it shows the influence that ergonomics has on the individual and the organization, from wellness to safety to workers' comp and disability, to IT, to purchasing, to facilities management, and within all these industries. So ergonomics has a role in all those types of in all those departments, and it's highly influential once you understand how to use it. And when you can apply it that way, the value proposition goes up massively.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, I love that too. The ergo eye, being really able to articulate what exactly it is that you bring to your clients. I am not an ergonomist, but my background is in environmental, and I remember thinking, oh, there's like environmental studies, and then you get in there and you're like, oh, there's so much more. There's so many more aspects and facets of this. So thank you all for sharing. And another question. Would you consider your biggest challenge that you have in your job as an ergonomist? And to add to that, could you also share one of the biggest pros?
Who wants to start with that? I'll start. Biggest challenge to my job, because I'm a consultant, it's, marketing and selling the science of ergonomics to employers with a value proposition to them. You know, why should they invest in ergonomics? What difference will it make to their employees, to their production, to their bottom line? As a PT ergonomist, transitioning from the clinic to consulting and starting my own business, the biggest challenge was to learn sales and marketing. How do you talk to people and convince them that what you see and what you can bring to the table will benefit them, and getting them on board? And then that's, you know, from a sales perspective. The other perspective is, as an ergonomist, evaluating people in the work environment and finding problems. How do you get the employer to implement, and persuade them to move forward with your recommendations? You know, that could be anywhere from low-hanging fruit to revamping and automating and bringing in AI and robotics and whatever. But so I think those are the biggest challenges, is how to, like we started, communicate this value proposition, and how do you get them to act on what you recommend, and making sure that they believe in you and they trust you to follow through with what you're recommending.
Yeah, I struggle with that too. I mean, we will have customers that ask us to come in, do an ergonomic assessment. We do that. We send out their report. We follow up. Do you need any help? How's it going? And it's silence. And then a year later, they ask us to come back and do an ergonomic assessment again. And so we go back and nothing's been done. And so that is a huge challenge for us as well, is just getting people to, it's like they want to do it, but then when it comes time to actually doing it, there's some kind of gap. And I still haven't quite figured out how to overcome that all of the time. There's ways that you can, you know, constant follow-up and trying to communicate the importance, and especially on my end, like, hey, here's all your losses, here's all this money that you spent on injuries, and don't you want to improve that? But it's still hard. And yeah, I just agree with Allison. It's challenging.
I think especially when they don't pay for it. So because I do loss control ergonomics for an insurer for their policyholders. And I found they're all gung-ho, come on in and do it. But then when you're done and you have these solutions for them, then now they have to step up and pay. And so there is a definite disconnect. And a recent thing I just did last week, we did a big MIPP training, hotel leadership training at a major chain. And guess who wasn't there? Health and safety, risk management, HR. The housekeeping leadership was there, but they're not in a position to make a decision about the policy development. They're willing to implement, but the deciders and the leaders weren't there. So that's the con side, the disappointing side sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's that follow-up that seems to be a barrier for a lot of employers. You do the teachings, like for me, I facilitate workshops, I conduct assessment reports, do all the great work, and then doing that follow-up, like Megan mentioned. So where are we at with the steps here for implementation? Oh, we haven't gotten to it. Something came up, there's an audit coming, or we don't have it in our budget anymore. And so it makes you feel as though your hard work just kind of went to waste in a sense. But eventually they do get to it, and sometimes they do provide you with that follow-up, and you're able to see the results of those different solutions and your reports being fully implemented out into a site. So that would be the good feeling that you receive. So that's always great as well.
Thank you. This is a follow-up kind of on the same topic that you all have been talking about. Do you have any stories regarding the most memorable feedback you've gotten from a client or an employee after conducting an ergonomic assessment?
Yeah, I have some great stories. I've spent almost 20 years at helping the Monterey County Sheriff with an ergonomics process design and management. And then I use that framework to continue on with my work in ergo process design and management, and actually got hired as an ergonomics manager for the County of Monterey. And I served in that position for 6 years. And I brought all the strategies from the 10 years prior of learning about systems approach and training others, training a team, and so forth. I brought all that to the county, and over a 6-year period, I was able to save the county about $15 million in claim avoidance and impact over probably 1,700 computer users with evaluations and training. It was extremely gratifying to see the loss runs go down and the return on investment go up, and get the department heads on board and see county employees engaging in ergonomics, and spreading the words between themselves, spreading the value themselves. I call it a keystone habit, which is a phrase from Charles Duhigg's book on the power of habit, and which drives change. And what I learned was that as employees benefited from ergonomics, yeah, they got some better chairs, they got better tools, but that enhanced their morale and their job satisfaction, and improved their work practices. And then others, it would spread to other employees. And that's how we had some great success. So that's probably one of the highlights of my career, and it really enhanced what I do today, and the way I teach and the way I consult with my clients on this process design.
Well
For
said.
me, it's been seeing I'm going to take a different approach to it. For me, it's seeing athletic trainers coming into the profession and being accepted into the profession as well. So an example with that is that I had went to facilitate a workshop, and I provided my background of sports medicine and my current experience with ergonomics. And during that workshop, they had a lot of questions as far as how to go about with conducting all of the different assessments that they have, and they were concerned that they did not have the manpower. Well, months later, probably maybe even a year later, I found out that they actually hired an athletic trainer to utilize the software that I was teaching them about and how to go about with conducting assessments. And now they're allowing that athletic trainer to be an injury prevention specialist. So, and that athletic trainer is now working towards trying to become a AEP, so an associate ergonomic professional as well. So that's been something very great. I'm very passionate about the ATC field as well as ergonomics, and to see them merge is very good. It's a good feeling.
Well said, both of you. I agree.
Thank you. Awesome. Another question from our audience. With all of the computer screens and smartphones and tablets in the workspace, has there been any changes, or how has visual fitness for duty in different occupations being assessed in combination with musculoskeletal injury prevention? So this is more of a less on career journeys and more of a specific ergonomics question, but I thought I'd pool your expertise for an answer.
Well, I'll answer in the way that when it comes to visual ergonomics, posture is based on vision and reach, where your eyes need to see what your hands are doing or where your visual target is. So if you have glare, you have poor eyesight, your glasses aren't right, the lighting's too low, the lighting's too high, you get migraines, it's all going to impact your performance. So computer screens and smartphones, these are all near vision tasks. Our eyes are failing probably sooner rather than later. I've been wearing glasses now for over 20 years. I can't see anything close anymore. I don't know if you're the same way, but my eyes do not, because of near focus fatigue. And people's posture change because they can't see. So that's, as far as fitness for duty, a lot of employers don't really even pay attention to vision necessarily, unless it's a critical component, so to speak, an essential. I mean, it's an essential function and of what we all do, but they don't. I don't know. You have to bring it to their attention, and it's on usually an individual basis. Megan, maybe I think you mentioned computer vision, but I don't know if you meant the same thing.
No, I was talking about something different. And I agree with you, Michelle. I don't get into fitness for duty as much as probably the two of you. But I don't know that I've ever seen it on a fitness for duty form in this way, from an ergonomic visual perspective. So I don't have anything to add, but I do think it's an interesting question to pose for sure.
Thank you. We've got a number of questions coming through, kind of talking about certification, education, BCPE as an option, interest in, working in a university. So I'd like to kind of roll these questions together and just ask, what additional education, certifications, training did you find as essential for transitioning to your career in ergonomics? And what might you consider to others who are interested in embarking on a similar journey?
I'll start off. For me, I started off with applying for the AEP, which is the Associate Ergonomic Professional. So it's the step before the CPE. And how I got there was I took first I started off with taking a lot of just basic webinar courses from different organizations. So I can really get a background as to what ergonomics is and what all the information I feel as though I was lacking in. From there, I was advised, well, maybe you should go ahead and go for your AEP as well. Did a little research with the BCPE and was able to apply, but realized that my background in athletic training, even though it's kind of similar to ergo in a sense, it did not meet the education requirements. So that resulted in me finding actually UC Berkeley, and I was able to find the different courses that was able to meet the education requirement. So there was different webinars that was available, trainings and workshop. And for me, I took what was the Ergo 100 course, which is the very basic foundation of ergonomics. But it was about 3 months of a 3-month course, and it was very hands-on, very interactive. I was able to meet the education requirements, and I actually learned like some of those different webinars. You just kind of go through and you just click through, but in this case here, you are actually really learning, and you get excited and passionate about what you're learning, so you can then apply it to your real life situation, whether it's in the workplace or not. I started with that, and then I was able to again reapply, and then that's when I received my AEP. So with the AEP, I'm able to hold this position this title for about 6 years. And then if I choose to sit for the CPE, I can do that as long as I meet the different requirements that is listed on the BCPE website, such as the work experience, the education background, and things like that. So I haven't fully decided if I'm going to do CPE quite yet. It is definitely high on the list, but as I'm learning different avenues within my company that I'm at, I'm going to be able to decide if CPE is going to be the route for me. But as of right now, the AEP route has allowed me to receive the necessary background information that I need in order to be the consultant that I am today with my company.
And then for me, I started about 8 years ago. The very first, I would say, real comprehensive training that I went through was through, at the time, it was Human Tech. And then a few years later, I wanted a little bit more. So my team collectively, we all decided we were going to go through the OccuPro ergonomics course. They're based in Wisconsin. But even from there, I still just didn't feel like I had enough of a technical expertise to really be able to dive into this subject and be a leader in ergonomics on my team. I still wanted more. And I also definitely wanted to get my CPE, which, as Courtney mentioned, requires certain like undergraduate credits in certain topics, which I didn't have. So that's how I found UC Berkeley. And I'm in the last of the 6 classes, and she did not ask me to plug them, but I cannot say enough good things about this program. It is challenging, to say the least, but I mean that as a complete compliment. It's challenging, which means I'm learning a ton more than I have in any other environment. But it's also great because it's designed for a working professional. So while there are lots of assignments and quizzes and things like that, it's still doable while having a full-time job and taking care of a family. And So I think if you're really serious about ergonomics, I would definitely give the Human Factors and Ergonomics Certificate program a look, because it's just been wonderful. I can't say enough good things about it.
I'm gonna chime in. It's not just about one course or one certificate. For those of you who are interested in this journey, you need to create a pathway for yourself and learn from others and stay engaged. But one thing about ergonomics in the marketplace is you do not need a national license. There are many alternative credentials in the marketplace, from the CEAS to the CEES to the COEE to COESP, which is what we offer in our academy, Worksite Ergonomics Training Academy, which we started in 2018. You want a coach and a mentor, and you think of it as stepping stones, because from the bottom, which is basically like many of you have a CEAS 1 or 2, or the OccuPro, as Megan mentioned, those are preliminary courses that give you a really broad overview, and they use often open source tools from OSHA, free tools, free checklists and things. But that's what I'm saying, is that that's not enough. You need more. And so look at the hierarchy from there to the top, which is the BCPE, or anyone from Canada, the CCPE. So, and you can settle anywhere in between. You don't have to go to the top. If you're, like myself, I decided as a consultant that it would increase my chances for better business opportunities to become a CPE and a CIE. So I did that. But there's many people who don't go that far, or don't have the money to invest in the Berkeley program, or need those in-between skills, deep dive skills. So I want you to think about alternative credentials. They're very valuable in the marketplace. They're important to use after your name. It's important to share with your employer what they mean and why they're valuable. So there is a pathway to success. It may vary for each of us. I have a very good, highly viewed blog. It's probably one of the most popular on my website, on the most popular ergonomic training programs in the marketplace. And I present the hierarchy because I've studied this since I am the director of my academy. So I wanted to make sure that where we positioned our courses was unique and valuable and made sense in that hierarchy. So I hope that helps attendees.
Yeah, thank you all so much for your thoughts on that. And so we did have a question also about BCPE certification, and I let the learner know and wanted to share with everyone. We're not going to get into specifics of like how to become BCPE certified today. We more wanted to address the larger growth of transitioning into ergonomics as a career, and what are some of the different ways and some of the different opportunities available. But if that is something you are interested in, we do have a recorded talk on that I just popped in the chat as well. And that recorded webinar is on BCPE certification guidance specifically. So that might be another resource you might want to check out after the webinar. Another question that we've got, can you describe the range of career opportunities available in ergonomics that you've encountered since transitioning from your previous profession? Do you find that there's a diversity of roles compared to your original field? What would you say you can see around the opportunities in ergonomics?
If you query ergonomics, human factor ergonomics on ONET, which is the national database of jobs, the outlook is really bright. There's so many aspects, from cognitive to physical to physical and occupational ergonomics, industrial, cognitive, so many aspects to it. You just, and then the human factor side, using, AI, studying that and integration of that. From my perspective, this is the thing about ergonomics. It's an applied science. So you can come in as a psychologist or an athletic trainer or a safety professional or a physical therapist, and go out whatever route you want. I mean, it's just a beautiful thing. You can just find what you like, but you've got to get the exposure so that so you can identify those aspects and go from there. I think the future looks bright. I mean, we're only using computer and technology and robotics and all these other tools more and more. And, because we are focused on human-centered analysis, people use these tools. They're going to need our opinions at least for a long time.
Thank you. Another question, and we've had a couple of questions also kind of related to technology, the future of ergonomics, how robotics, artificial intelligence. I'd broaden those questions and kind of lump them together and saying, what emerging trends or technologies do you think that are important for professionals to be aware of? Do you see things like AI and robotics in partnership, in collaboration? Is it in competition? How do you see these different technologies being used? And what do you, if you had a crystal ball, what do you think, where do you think ergonomics is headed?
Yeah, so we utilize a computer vision / AI, excuse me, company, but it's complete collaboration. And I think what's really important, because I get this question from our customers a lot, is it's not something that the average person can just go out and purchase and use and suddenly you're an ergonomist. There are a lot of mechanics behind the software and it's not 100% perfect. So there are adjustments that you need to make to the inputs. And so, you really have to understand how to manually complete each type of assessment that's available in these computer vision or AI software programs, because there are errors. And it's incredibly, I think it's a great technology. I love using it. It makes assessments a little quicker to complete. That is certainly one of the benefits. Plus it looks really cool to customers. So it's flashy, it looks good. They love that part of it. But you have to really understand, like I said, the mechanics behind it all and be able to complete each assessment without it and come up with the right answer or the right score. Otherwise, I don't know how useful it is if you got somebody using it that doesn't understand that piece of it.
Yeah, this is like the ketchup on the hamburger, it's like, it's a validation of what you observe and measure with a tape measure, with your eyes, with a still photo. It just validates it. And it can be very complex for employers. They like the video with the little red lines and green lines, and they can, oh, that's what the bad part is, right? That's what we need to correct. But I agree with you, Megan. You got to know the foundation, the background of how those programs work and what the NIOSH, the RULA, the REBA formulas are. And that's where you learn those from these courses we're talking about. Yep. And then you can use them. But they are only validation tools. And like I said, the ketchup or the mustard on your burger.
Yes, you have to be able to understand the why and the how with these different technologies tools that are out there. And again, yes, they're great. They're user friendly. It's quick for us to complete, but at the same time, there's going to be those different assessments where you're going to have to refer back to the manual assessments, or you're going to have to refer back and the science behind the visual of what you're seeing. So we don't want to neglect the manual process. We want to continue to appreciate that, but just enhance it with the AI machine learning skills there.
Yeah, and you don't need them to do a good evaluation. That's another side of it too. Don't feel that you need to use them, because you don't. You can come up with the solutions pretty easily with just some simple techniques that we learned from studying and applying ergonomic strategies. With a tape measure, a counter, a clicker, and a watch, Yeah. And a video camera. I mean, that's how I used to do it. I would stop my videos, time it out, count the reps, apply it to the concepts of, how much is too much and where can we go from here? So
Thank you all so much. Another question, what advice would you give to someone considering a move into ergonomics and how they might determine if this is something that aligns with their long-term career goals?
Jump in and be willing to learn. Always be willing to learn because it's evolving each day. We're learning different information. We're learning different tools and different resources coming out. Different research is taking place. So be open to learning new things and just jumping in and utilize the resources that's around you. There's a lot of different free webinars that's out there. There's a lot of different documents, research that's been published. So just catch up and be willing to learn.
Yeah, I think, stay engaged, connect on LinkedIn, learn from others, like free events like this. Follow people you like their philosophy. Follow, see what they're doing and participate in their posts and engagements. I think that I've mentored and coached hundreds of students over the years, and I think I help with guided practice leading to independent performance, and I see the transition for people and the transformation is much better with a mentor and a coach. So I think to piggyback on what Courtney said is to get involved, but go to free seminars. Come to the WI Network Expert Hour next year when we launch them in 2025, where we have free sessions with experts from all over the world, and learn and then apply. You've got to apply what you learn and test your theories, test your practices, and get feedback from people. And you'll see the light bulb goes on and you'll have successes. So I think that ergonomics, I had no idea of the opportunities I would create for myself over these last 3 decades because of that philosophy. And I'm passionate as much as I was the day I walked through the first employer I started to help. And at this point in my career, I want to share my expertise and my experiences. So I'd love for those, we put a link in to my LinkedIn account. If anybody wants to connect with me there, I'd love to make some new connections.
Yeah, I'll just echo what they say, or what both of them said. For me, the jumping back into courses and the education piece was really intimidating, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to commit to that at this stage of my life. But it's been extremely rewarding, and I'm just really fortunate to have the opportunity from a practice standpoint in my role at Century. So I'm able to do both, and it's been just really rewarding. So just don't ever stop being a student. That's something my parents really instilled in me growing up, and I believe it's still true today. So take as many opportunities to learn as you can.
Yeah, there's no boundaries really. There's only those that you put on yourself, So keep at it. It's a very open field, so much to learn and do, and the opportunities are there if you want them.
Well, thank you all so much for your time today. We're coming to the close. We've got about another minute left, but I just wanted to check in and see, are there any final tips, any last comments, any words of advice that you want to throw out there to our audience as we close to session today?
The key one is just to be willing to learn, like Megan indicated, never stop being a student. And then I'm going to add to that, don't be afraid to be a teacher.
Yeah, and I think, be willing to take risks. And it doesn't have to cost a lot either. It does take time though. And you can't just, go to one class and expect to get hired by an employer. So the strategies I think we've all talked about today, we all bring unique perspectives. And I think, plan your success path and work with people like us to, help guide you and help you to be successful. I think it's a very exciting career and full of opportunities. So I appreciate everyone coming today and allowing me to present my ideas and my experiences with you.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Find us on LinkedIn, and if we didn't get to your questions or you didn't get an opportunity to ask one, just reach out, and we're more than happy to help.
Well, thank you so much to our panelists today. I love one of the comments we have in the chat here. It's great to see a panel full of inspirational women. So I would echo that. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise and your journey with us today. We really, really appreciate it. And be sure to check out our website for more information, to register for upcoming events. You can visit us online at coh@berkeley.edu/about-CE. And this presentation was recorded, so y'all get a link to the if you check back on our website in about a week, we'll have it posted and transcribed. So if you know anyone who's interested that you want to share it with, please do. Thank you all so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everyone. Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.